or to diminish their access to future medical care or futuristic methods. That's the way our free market is supposed to work. One man has a product. You can run a separate universe beside him running with a different product, and the people who pay for these products, the people who earn the money to pay for them, decide gradually what they want on the basis of which one is better. So I wouldn't propose tearing down the current medical system, simply changing the laws so that there are no laws against someone doing better, someone running a parallel medical system. And I have no doubt that the current, with technological advances that have taken place, that this paradigm shift would occur. But I don't suggest that it should occur by edict. You simply want to. There are certain laws which monopolize, which make medicine a monopoly of a certain group. Those monopolistic laws need to be rescinded, and in that case, we just see whether the things I'm saying are right, because the free market would decide.
So, really, with that being what it is, and we know that there is a monopoly in the medical industry and a lockdown, my question to you is, and then I want to get back to the question of quantitative measuring, do you really think that you and I and others live in a free market if you have a lockdown, a complete stronghold and a lockdown on all discovery, new manufacturing, and new technologies that are faster, better, more effective, and cheaper?
Well, no, we don't. We don't have a free market in medicine. We definitely do not.
So the whole concept of a free market economy is great to talk about philosophically, but if you and I really look into the truth about the medical industry and system, it's not in operation at all.
No, that's true. Well, there's a little of it.
Yeah.
Mostly it's not. But it's not philosophical, because the United States, there's a reason why at the time of World War II, the United States produced 2/3 of all the industrial production in the entire world. And it wasn't because Americans were geniuses. It was because they were free. We used to have a much freer system than we do today. And freedom does these things. People can do things, and then they can compete. But in medicine today, we have a very monopolistic system. You can't even, an ordinary pet dog has more, and his owner have more freedom of more medical freedom than a human being. Because veterinarians are not as restricted by the government in the things they do than our physicians. A physician cannot even do many things a veterinarian can do, not because they're not good, but because the medical monopoly won't permit it.
In order to we're going to shift gears here because we both know and other people know very well what is occurring. In order to make significant progress in preventative, diagnostic, and therapeutic medicine, and these are your words, it's necessary to have quantitative measurement of human health. Explain that to the public.
Well, suppose that we pose a simple question. This is the question that we posed, Linus Pauling and I posed in 1968, that led us to invent metabolomics. We wanted to know how much vitamin C or vitamin B6 or vitamin B3 a person should eat for optimum health. Well, we could reduce that to a simple graph. Suppose you have a graph, and on the vertical axis you have health, quantitatively measured, and on the horizontal axis you have the amount of vitamin C someone should be eating. All right, the graph would start in the origin. There would be zero health with no vitamin C because it's required for life. And then as you ate more and more vitamin C, your health would rise, the graph would rise, until it reached the maximum. And then it would start down because you would be eating too much vitamin C, more than was good for you. We wanted to know how to draw that graph so that we could tell an individual how much vitamin C he should eat. But the graph cannot be drawn unless we can quantitatively measure his health. Now this is a simple explanation, one substance, one simple graph, but it affects everything. If you're sick, it affects how much drug you're taking. If you are not ill, but if your health, the probability, if you could measure your health quantitatively, the process of doing that would really give you the probabilities of disease. In other words, suppose that the measurements showed that your probability of having a heart attack was 3 times greater than normal. Well, if you can measure that probability, then you can change things about your life, whether it's exercise or what you eat or any other thing that you hear might help you. And if you can measure that probability, you can fight the probability of disease rather than disease itself. That's preventive medicine. Today, preventive medicine works without the tools of measurement. In other words, you hear that if you eat more vitamin E, you'll live longer. Or if you would exercise more, you'll live longer and be better health. And all kinds of advice, magazines are full of it. There's a vast amount of advice about what you might do to optimize your health, but no way to measure your health so that you can see how these things affect you. Many things are claimed to make you live longer. If you do this, you'd live longer, that you'd live longer, and so on. Well, if you have a way of quantitatively measuring your physiological age, you can simply make a graph on your computer of your rate of aging, and when you make a change in your lifestyle, you can see whether that increases or decreases the slope of that graph.
That sounds exciting.
Quantitatively, measuring the probability of illness quantitatively, measuring the rate of physiological aging quantitatively, makes it possible for a human being to make a graph of those important parameters with respect to the way he lives. And once he can make those graphs, he can optimize his life.
What are these metabolites that are so important, that are the basis of a lot of what you're talking about?
Well, you realize in a living thing, a human being, for example, the DNA is simply a library of how to make proteins. The proteins do everything, from the form the structural materials of your body to catalyzing all the chemical reactions required to keep you alive, to burn your food, to enable you to see, think, hear, and so forth. There are about estimated about 30,000 different kinds of proteins in your body doing all these things.
That's a lot of action.
But those proteins, of course, there are more than 30,000 protein molecules, 30,000 different types. Now, these proteins mostly catalyze chemical reactions. They cause the reactions needed for your life to take place rather than reactions that wouldn't be useful for your life. Most of those reactions involve small molecules with molecular weights, say, under 500. And those are metabolites. They are the result of metabolism, which is the combined chemical reactions taking place and being catalyzed by all of these protein molecules. So in order to stay alive, you need to have thousands of different small molecules made inside your body where they're needed so that they can burn your food, enable you to walk, talk, think, do all the things you do. Protein molecules are busy making all of those things and adjusting the amounts so that you will be alive. The DNA is sitting there just telling the body how to make the protein molecules. But the essence of life is all of these substances that the proteins are making for you. And these are called metabolites because metabolism is the combined efforts of all these protein molecules to fill your cells with the small molecules that you need to stay alive.
So why do you think it is that there's so much focus now on all this DNA extraction, the Human Genome Project, sequencing DNA?
One, it was easy. Technology was developed to sequence DNA, and there are only it's only a 4-letter code, and so it was easy to measure the genome. The other reason is that it became popular. You realize science is no longer funded by free enterprise. For the most part, it's funded by government grants. It became very popular to work on DNA, so a large part of government funding for biochemistry was put into DNA research, and this caused this particular aspect of biochemistry to shoot ahead of the others just because there was money to work on it.
I think
also it was a fairly easy problem. The DNA is not very complicated. It's an easy problem compared to metabolomics or protein chemistry.